Thanks, Ray. Bob, I don't know if you can confirm this for me, but I'm pretty sure all of our Tobacco-Free Austin is funded through stimulus funds. Is that not correct? Come on down and use the mic so everybody can hear you. I think she makes a good point. I just want to clarify because I remember us discussing this previous meetings.
Right, Councilmember. Bob Corona, Analyst, Health and Human Services Department. That particular ad was funded through the CDC anti-tobacco grant, the CPTW. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The next speaker is Robert Love. Is Robert still with us? Welcome back, Robert. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Love, and I'm a student, a second-year student at the LBJ School of Public Affairs. And I had to skip class to be here today, so I was hoping you all would write me a note to get me out of central banking class.
I don't think it'll help you, but I'll write you one.
Awesome. Thank you. As someone who studies policy, I'd like to ask you, do you think the city should warn the public when a city policy endangers the health of 25% of the population? In fact, the risk of fluoride is even worse than that. According to government statistics, 31.4% of citizens are endangered by this one-size-fits-all dosage of fluoride in our water. We all know that young children are endangered by this, and in fact, the city has a warning on their website informing mothers about this. But it's not just infants that are threatened by this. The permanent teeth of children develop between the ages of 0 and 5, and they emerge around age 6. So all children below age 5 are at risk for fluoridation. But what about adults? According to the National Research Council's 2006 report, there are 3 specific risk groups that we need to be concerned about: diabetics, those with kidney disease, and those with hypothyroidism. So how many people are we talking about here? Well, again, according to government statistics, 7.2% of Texans have only diabetes. It doesn't count those with hypothyroidism. 10.1% of Texans have kidney disease, and 6.9% of Texans have hypothyroidism. And many of those also have diabetes. What's worse is that diabetes is more likely to affect minorities and low-income populations, the very people that are less likely to have reliable access to the internet and therefore less likely to be able to see your warning on your webpage. So let's just do the math here. 7.1% diabetics, 10.1% of the population kidney disease, 6.9% hypothyroidism, and 7.2% children below age 5 and below. That's 34.1% of the population the government admits we are endangering with this health practice. It is your civic and moral duty to warn every citizen of Austin as quickly as possible, and awarding on the water utility bill is a cheap way to do that. Please warn those at-risk populations so parents and citizens can make an informed decision about what they put into their own bodies. Thank you. And I'll come back for that note.
You bet. Might get you kicked out altogether. Thank you, Mr. Love. Next speaker is Stacy Hopp. Stacy here? Welcome, Stacy. You'll have 3 minutes. Sir, you keep raising your hand. Are you signed up to speak?
Yes, I should be right after the...
What's your name?
My name is Ellis.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Stacy Hopp, and I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I can only speak from my personal experience, which 16 years ago I gave birth to my son, and within a few weeks at a doctor's visit, they were telling me to give him the fluoride tablets. And I didn't do it. For some reason, just intuitively, I just said, I just don't feel like I should give that to him. And at the time, really, they didn't have all this research that they have now, by any means. I breastfed my son for 3 years. I was really, really fortunate to be able to do that. And now he's got beautiful teeth, and he's also in the IB program at Westwood High School. Correlation, who knows? But I'm just really, really happy that I didn't give him the fluoride tablets at that time. So it seems like it's just sort of baby steps here. Ideally, I'd like the fluoride just to be stopped and just taken out of our water supply right now. But if we can, step by step, if it's going to take it slow, let's just at least get it done. If you can at least put the warning on the water bill, so the people that don't know about this cannot, will know not to put fluoride or fluoridated water in their baby formula, so that all of the children at least have a fair start. At least they have a chance not to develop whatever. Certainly, dental fluorosis is within 40% of the population of children between the ages of 12 and 15. So you have this information. It just seems like you need to get it out. It's just your responsibility to get it out. And again, a lot of people aren't as fortunate as I was to have the opportunity to be able to breastfeed my kid for as long as I could and give him the best start possible. But please, I just ask you to let people know what's going on. Just at least put it on the water bill. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Travis Snavely. Is Travis here? There you are. Welcome, Travis. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much. I also agree with the speakers before me. I think we do need this warning or this notice on the water bill. I guess the main reason I think is that people have the right to decide what they want to ingest. And when I turn on the faucet, I want water and water alone to come out of the faucet. I don't want any kind of added substance. Any other supplement I might want, I can put in. I can take that myself on my own accord. And I don't think the city should decide what we ingest by way of water fluoridation. And also, I'll make it quick, but I also think that just the money that we spend, I mean, we're in a budget crisis, and we can use that money on other things, and obviously, why would we want to spend money on poisoning us? So that's basically all I have. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Travis. Next speaker is Philip Green. Welcome, Philip. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, council members. I know there's a lot of discrepancy even within the CDC and the American Medical Association. I actually have a quote here from Charles Gordon Hyde. He's the former president of the American Medical Association. I quote, "I am appalled at the prospect of using water as a vehicle for drugs. Fluoride is a corrosive poison that will produce serious side effects on a long-range basis. Any attempt to use water in this way is deplorable." So that's the former president of the American Medical Association. And even within the EPA and the HHS, much of their science has determined that fluoride is toxic. I have in front of you today the MSDS sheet from Mosaic Company, the company which we purchase our fluoride from. I also have the 2006 National Research Council National Academy of Science report that was requested by the EPA. So this is the government's own science. The NRC concluded that the EPA's safety standard for fluoride is not safe and should be lowered. According to the NRC, EPA's safe standard of 4 parts per million puts a person at increased risk for both tooth and bone damage. Page 187 of the report. It is apparent that fluorides have the ability to interfere with the functions of the brain and the body by direct and indirect means. Page 186. Fluorides also increase the production of free radicals in the brain through several different biological pathways. These changes have a bearing on the possibility that fluorides act to increase the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Page 223. Some of these endocrine effects are associated with fluoride intake that is achievable at fluoride concentrations in drinking water of 4 milligrams per liter or less, especially for young children or individuals with higher water intake. Page 197. Several lines of information indicate an effect of fluoride exposure on thyroid function. Page 221. The single animal study of pineal function indicates that fluoride exposure results in altered melatonin production and altered timing of sexual maturity, including effects on sexual maturation, calcium metabolism, parathyroid function, postmenopausal osteoporosis, cancer, and psychiatric disease. This is straight out of the NRC NAS report. This is from our government-funded science. I don't see the point in putting a warning on our water utility bills stating that a third of the public is possibly being detrimentally affected by a toxic substance that we have the choice to add to our drinking water. Let's vote this stuff out. It takes 4 council members to have this done with. We don't need a warning to indicate to people that they're being harmed by a substance that doesn't have to be there in the first place. Please end this today. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mike Ford. Welcome, sir. I apologize, I skipped over you by accident. You were much higher up on the list.
Thank you. The Austin City Council allows its water company to put the toxic chemical fluoride in the drinking water it sells us. Now, that's astonishing by itself. But the Austin City Council does not require the water company to place a warning about the toxicity of the water on the water bill it sends us. That's sort of strange. As a result, most of the 800,000 people who live and drink the water with its fluoride do not know that the city adds this toxic chemical to the water. More serious, the city council's toxic chemical, what it does to us is it undermines our kidneys, makes our bones brittle, and weakens our thyroids. This is a personal issue with me. After 38 years of being involuntarily medicated with fluoride, my thyroid no longer functions to keep my body warm. Nasty as these things are, the nastiest thing that the City Council's fluoride dosing does is it lowers the IQ of our infants and our children. 25 studies now confirm that fluoride lowers the IQ of children. Who would have thought that this Austin City Council would maintain a program that actually lowers the IQ of the children of Austin? Who would have thought that? When are you going to stop it? Please stop. Thank you.
The next speaker is Julie Williams. Is Julie Williams here?
She left.
Okay. The next speaker is W. Russell Doyle. Welcome, Mr. Doyle.
The book, Health and Nutrition Secrets by Russell Blaylock, MD, professor and neurosurgeon, quotes Robert Carlton, PhD and former EPA scientist, as saying, "Fluoridation is the greatest case of scientific fraud of this century." Dr. Blaylock then quotes William Marcus, PhD, senior EPA toxicologist. Regarding fluoridation, the EPA should act immediately to protect the public, not just on the cancer data, but on the evidence of bone fractures, arthritis, mutagenicity, and other effects. And by the way, EPA scientists demanded and got fluoride banned from their headquarters building. Fluoride in tooth decay. Professor Blaylock says, as it stands, there is in fact no credible evidence that fluoride added to the water supply reduces cavities at all. And several studies have convincingly demonstrated the incidence of cavities is actually higher in fluoridated areas. The U.S. Public Health Service did a study using 39,000 school children and found that fluoridated and unfluoridated areas had virtually the same rate of tooth decay. Another study, reviewing all studies for 30 years, again found no difference. And a 30-year study in India using 400,000 children found that as the fluoride level increased, so did tooth decay. Cancer. In the journal Cancer Research, Dr. Tsutsui demonstrated that fluoride injected under the skin of hamsters could induce cancer. The Argonne National Laboratories found that fluoride enhanced the cancer-causing ability of other chemicals as well. Dr. Dean Burke, former chief chemist at the National Cancer Institute, compared the cancer death rates in the 10 largest fluoridated cities with the rates in 10 matched unfluoridated cities, and found that fluoridated cities demonstrated a 10% increase in cancer deaths following the first 13 to 17 years of fluoridation of drinking water. Fluoride and genetic damage. Dr. Wolfgang Klein demonstrated that cells exposed to 1 part per million fluoride exhibit a 50% reduction in DNA repair enzyme activity. That not only increases cancer risk, but also aggravates disease of the nervous system, such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Lou Gehrig's disease. And when unrepaired DNA damage occurs in reproductive cells, the damage is passed on to children as well. Fluoride fractures and fragile bones. Fluoride weakens long bones such as the femur and radius. 8 peer-reviewed studies demonstrate increased hip fractures with fluoridation. One study demonstrated that fluoridation increased the incidence of hip fractures by 27% in women and 41% in men. IQ. Studies in China have shown an overall 10-point drop in IQ in medium-severe fluorosis areas compared to low fluoride areas, with the number of children having IQs below 70 increasing as much as 21%, as well as a marked decrease in the number of children having IQs in the higher range. The incidence of Down syndrome is also 30% higher in fluoridated communities than unfluoridated ones. Until fluoride is removed, Austin should at least warn its citizens of the dangers of drinking fluoridated water.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Next speaker is Nancy Reed. Welcome, Ms. Reed. You'll have 3 minutes.
I appreciate your graciousness. I can see that being even on this kind of water board can be somewhat torturous.
It's like waterboarding.
Yes. I wondered, like you do, how so many good people could be in favor of this when it's a neurotoxin that's been known for hundreds of years to be a neurotoxin. There are a couple of things that come to mind. One is it's supposed to make us docile. Obviously, these people haven't been having all their fluoride. And I interviewed in 2007 Clinton Miller, who has been working to keep fluoride out of cities' water supplies to begin with since the 40s. And he gave me a little history that I think will help all of us understand how we got in this position to begin with. I'm quoting him now. One of the side effects of the war effort was fluoridation, because they would make the atomic bomb, and so what they had done in the Manhattan Project, once they found out they were poisoning orchards. You see, poisoning on orchards where they were making the atomic bomb was destruction of the plants, and the farmers were going to sue the federal government. So they put it under the war effort. This man's in his late 80s now. He says, and I was in the war effort. I was in the Second World War. I have a major in military science and tactics. That's my bachelor's degree. I believe in defending the country. I believe there were certain times when you have to have military emergency, and we certainly did, both in Germany and Japan. Something that required military drastic action, and I could even defend as a military person, not telling the public about it, so that you could go ahead and make the atomic bomb. But lots of people were injured by the atomic bomb before one even went off, and they were hurt in this country by the fluoride injury. What they did in the process is that they put total security, military security, on the information, and no one could talk about it in the government. And as a result, all of this was suppressed. But here you have the Public Health Department going out and promoting it, which worked fine for the military, because how's fluoride going to be bad if it's going to be good for teeth? And the whole scenario took place under classified information. I then asked him, I said, I know in legal battles you must have been confronted with a lot of experts that show scientific evidence saying what the government or the corporations want them to say. How do you deal with that? He said, well, very gingerly. Number one, if you've got the government under classified, if top scientists in the government cannot talk about it honestly, they can make their memorandums, but it goes in and it doesn't go out. That's where distortion of the scientist comes in, because when a scientist works for the government and he cannot go out and tell the people because he would be breaking the code, the Manhattan Code. Once I understood the military connection here, then it helped me understand that a lot of it wasn't mean-spirited or ugly people or even greedy people. They were caught up in a rock and a hard place. So it was a military secret. Oh, my time is up. One more statement. What it has become now is, I could tell you that we're killing you, but then I'd have to kill you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. The next speaker is Vicki Karp. Welcome, Ms. Karp.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Vicki Karp. I'm a realtor. I'm also co-director of Vote Rescue. We're a local election integrity group that supports the return of public elections with hand-counted paper ballots. So I come here not as a fluoride expert, but these people have provided the science to help me make a common sense decision when I think about whether I'd rather have thyroid problems, cancer, Alzheimer's, IQ loss, osteoporosis, or any of the other numerous health issues that have been linked definitively to fluoride in the water. To me, it's just very much common sense question and answer. How much poison is okay for me to have in my water? And for me, the answer is none. And I think the city of Austin deserves zero fluoride, zero poison. I think that, of course, if we're going to have it in the water, a warning label, a warning on the water bill would absolutely be essential. But, I think we're really just settling here in a way, because I think that this is such a clear case of health horrors that we're really facing with fluoride in our water. I think that what we really should be talking about is what is it going to take for the city council to reverse whatever policies that are in place right now, whatever contracts are in place, and completely get rid of the fluoride once and for all, so we don't have to even deal with this warning system. Thank you.
Next speaker is Jackie Simon. Welcome, Ms. Simon.
Is there a giant plan to decrease the world's population? It sounds insane, and surely only crazy conspiracy theorists think that way. Well, I have no theories and only facts. I've worked in hospitals for 30 years as a registered nurse. I have 5 degrees, and 10 of those years I worked as a diabetes clinical nurse specialist. Do you think the enormous rise in diabetes and other chronic illnesses is just a big accident? Truth is, anyone willing to look will find dozens of clear videos showing the ultra-wealthy speaking about their obsessive desire to depopulate. The words come from their own lips. You can see it for yourself on YouTube. They include David Rockefeller, Bill Gates, Ted Turner, and other billionaire eugenicists. They admit this. But these people pale in comparison to the House of Rothschild, estimated to be worth several $100 trillion. This banking cabal has been behind genocidal leaders worldwide, including Stalin, Hitler, Mao, Brezhnev, and others. These horrible mass killings really did happen. And the only thing that's protected us in America is our right to bear arms. So the methods used to kill us must be a little more hidden, slow, as someone else said 30 years, and deceptive. If you don't believe this, please look up the Rothschilds and please look up books about the Rothschilds and the privately owned Federal Reserve, which of course is not federal and has no reserves, as everyone here knows. But make no mistake, they are slowly and intentionally trying to kill us. This really is happening. Poisoning our water is just one of the many ways that this agenda is being carried out. Others include contaminated vaccines, dangerous pharmaceuticals, food additives, drug wars, class warfare that we're seeing now, and other divide and conquer techniques. The methods used are far too numerous to mention more here. Please read Brave New World Revisited. And anyone in this room who believes they're safe, wealthy, and powerful is kidding themselves, because I guarantee you're not in the big club, and you'll not be spared if you support their evil path. Your little bit of extra money, and I don't know where the money is coming from, but I do believe in following the money. But that little bit of extra money won't guarantee anyone's safety. As the first woman who spoke said, we are all in this together. And as for me, I prefer to die for what is right than to live as a pathetic coward and not speak up. So I urge you to do the right thing for the people.
Thank you, Ms. Simon.
And the people, my friends, includes everyone in this room. We need to get fluoride out of our water. So thank you so much for taking firm action.
Thank you, Ms. Simon. The next speaker is Ellis McLean. Welcome, Mr. McLean. Mike. Mike? I do.
Thank you. This is my first time speaking here, but here I go. I come here at 19, wondering why. Why has this taken so long? Well, now I know. Standing here in this council room, I see the inefficiency, the extreme lack of action due to the gap in communication or due to a broken bureaucratic system, or both. I know that the acidity in my juice can be potentially damaging to the enamel of my teeth. I don't know how many other people know that in our public, but I know that, and I'm aware of it, and I do everything I can to protect myself against those kinds of things. But that's just some of the examples of resources that we need to make people aware of, especially fluoride. Earlier, Chris, or Mike, you said that I was just wondering what your rationale was for inviting someone who already spoke out of turn to speak before the agreed upon list of speakers. If you can answer that now, I'd waste the time for it.
And my name is Mike. That's Chris over there. But
Mike,
that's,
okay,
that's
Mike
okay.
and Chris.
I did invite Miss Liverman to come speak because she kept speaking from the audience, and I felt like she had something she wanted to say to us, so I invited her up.
Do you think encouraging people to speak out of turn and then inviting them up here to speak out of turn of everyone that we already agreed on? I don't know if you counseled with the other council members up here before you agreed to do that, or if you talked to anyone out here. I know that for a fact it wasn't proposed, but I was just wondering where the rationale was behind that.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Okay. All right, cool. Me personally, I'm here to hold you, in the position you hold, accountable on behalf of myself and our community. That's why I'm here right now. I'm no longer a student in the typical sense, yet I still consider myself a student, and we all here are here because we've got to make them realize to change anything. And with my last seconds, I'd like to read a short poem, if that's okay with everybody, if everyone can bear through that with me. I wrote this at 10:52 a.m. this morning. Everything I loved about video games repulsed me in real life. It took me maybe 17 years to realize this. By 3, I knew I was no longer as happy. I was scared until a few nights ago to walk in my own backyard. I couldn't take my shoes off, told that I shouldn't take my thoughts off of subjects pertaining to fear. I was a queer if I acted out, a freak if I cared too much in class, trained to become untrainable, train hoppers made out to be a life most dismal. Their spirits are real and as clear as the crystal. I'm a child, so are we all. The man who no longer is a student is always the one to fall. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. I know I'll get a reaction for saying this, but I need to ask because there's no indication on this forms whether you're for or against. So we've only heard for folks who are in favor of warning and or removal of fluoride. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to the opposite or to the contrary? Okay, thank you. With that, I will continue reading the names of those who've signed up on this item, and we will start the committee's deliberation and consideration. So the remaining folks that signed up, I'll just read your names as being in support of a warning label and or removing fluoride from the water. Lauren McKenzie, Tristan Piper, I apologize if I don't pronounce your name correctly. Steve Usher. It's either Aaron Mickle or Michael. Walter Olnick. George Lecren. William R. Bates. I think it's Janice Laverne. Is that right? I'm sorry. Oh, that was you. I'm sorry, Janice. Okay. Kim Van Flyn, is that right? Sean Pratula, is that right? And then Benjamin Walker, Marcus Pfeiffer, and Patrice Sullivan.